Fighting Modern Slavery, Pursuing Freedom, and Seeking Justice. Hi, I'm Sabrina Stratford, and the question we're asking today is my organization doing the best we can with social responsibility? Most organizations are concerned with social responsibility, and we ask ourselves, how can we do better? How can we up our social responsibility game and become a better team? And the answer is, we make ourselves aware, we educate ourselves, and we take action. Human trafficking is everywhere. In all 50 states, we're all affected, and we can all empower ourselves in the fight. But we've got just a short amount of time here, so I'm going to cover what is human trafficking, how do I spot it, and maybe most importantly, how do I protect my family? What is human trafficking? Well, we define it as moving someone into slavery. It's the inability to refuse work. Another definition I've come to understand since I decided to devote my time to the fight, human trafficking is the exploitation of vulnerability. U.S. law defines human trafficking as the use of force, fraud, or coercion to compel a person into commercial sex acts or labor or services against his or her will. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, only second to the drug trade. And I get this question a lot. Are prostitutes trafficked? Answer, 99% of the time. You may hear of groups who work to legalize prostitution and claim that it's a good field of work, but we know that there isn't a little girl alive who grew up wanting to be a prostitute until her vulnerability was attacked and she lost sight of her worth. So are pimps traffickers? Yes, yes they are. They might have cool hats, but they're traffickers. Prostitutes are coerced, manipulated, and threatened. Getting someone addicted to drugs is a big play in trafficking, and most prostitutes are addicted and have a debt to pay to their pimp, and they make little or no money of their own. So we see trafficked people on the streets working the corners, but most of the time, human trafficking is hidden, and no one really knows just how prevalent the crime is. But according to the Global Slavery Index, there are 45 million slaves in the world today, more than any other time in history. Why such big numbers? Well, we mentioned it. It's about the money. It's a $50 billion per year industry, and that's before the border crisis. That's bigger than Starbucks, Google, NFL combined. The fact that there is a demand, a supply is created. And because of this demand, over 400,000 children go missing every year. A trafficker sees a child as a piece of merchandise that they can sell 12 times a day for an average of 8 years. They have to look at people as objects. The USA leads all other nations in consumption. 1 in 4 victims is a child. 7 out of 10 victims are female. So yes, the majority of victims are girls, but we can't forget that 30% of the victims are male. Modern slavery is a wide-ranging term that can encompass a multitude of scenarios. Common to all of them, however, is exploitation, whether for financial or personal gain, and exertion of control. Every year, hundreds of thousands of children are recruited from and transported to and through the USA for trafficking. Most people think of child trafficking as children bound and beaten and hidden in bunkers in third world countries. And while that is a reality for many children around the world, many people don't realize that child trafficking is rampant in the USA and that the victims and perpetrators might be right in front of you. Trafficked kids are often kept in your typical American home and even attend school, but their life is anything but typical. Some of the things we can look for: if you see kids who are obviously fearful, a kid who is tired all the time, maybe they fall asleep in class a lot. They might wear new clothes all the time, or clothes that are too mature or inappropriate. And conversely, and maybe more obviously, kids that have obvious signs of neglect. They always seem to be dirty. They're always hungry. Notice who picks up their kids and when someone looks suspect. Trafficked kids are under the control of someone running a business, so how that predator runs their business can vary greatly. How do these kids get into these situations? Grooming. Child predators use a process called grooming to coerce the child into submission. This can happen gradually with promises of a better life, financial gain, romance, protection, fame, promising the child whatever it is they know that that child wants or needs. The predator will assume a position of power and authority in order to gain trust and unsupervised access to the child. This may be a stranger, but most often it's someone the child knows. I worked in the Alaska Sex Offender and Kidnapper Registry and handled dozens of cases. And in that time, 100% of the cases I handled, the victim knew their predator. So we do have to examine relationships that people have with their kids. And that means everybody, their teachers, a counselor, coaches, a doctor, a religious leader, Boy Scout leader, neighbors. We even have to examine our friends and family members. Now, this doesn't mean we have to run scared, but we do have to be diligent in inserting ourselves into our kids' relationships. We have to make our kids hard to get by helping them understand their value, because predators will take the path of least resistance and attack the vulnerable. They will also set their sights on a kid that's hard to get if there's good money in it and kidnap them, but typically they go for the most vulnerable targets and lure them into the life. Predators will target vulnerable children from abusive households or broken families, kids who are often unsupervised and easily manipulated. Once the predator gains the child's trust, they will use psychological, emotional, and physical abuse to ensure the child is submissive. Any marginalized person is an easy target. Just think about what makes a person vulnerable: an abusive home or a tragic event, and the victim runs away. Now they're on the street, and the helpful trafficker comes along and meets their basic needs of food and shelter, and then offers them drugs to ease the pain, then more drugs to feed their addiction. And once they're addicted to drugs, that victim is done. They run up a drug debt, and that debt is taken out of their body several times a day. In labor trafficking situations, keeping victims isolated, sometimes physically, most of the times emotionally, it's a key method of control. But that doesn't mean you never cross paths with someone who is being labor trafficked. A contractor might notice that a subcontractor's team appears to be sleeping in unfinished homes, or a suburban mom might learn from a nanny at her local playground that her employer mistreats and threatens her and doesn't pay her. Who is a vulnerable target? Think about vulnerabilities: runaways, abusive homes, foster care kids, people in poverty, and labor trafficking. That can happen in construction, hotels, massage parlors, housekeepers. These are areas that in the corporate world, we bump up against in our daily lives, especially if we travel for work. And that's where our social responsibility kicks in. Hotel workers, restaurants, airports. These are places where we need to stay aware. But one of the most agonizing things about human trafficking is that they come right into our homes to take our children, and we allow them in. Did you know 1 in 20 children report unwanted online sexual solicitation? 1 in 12 kids have exchanged sexual messages with strangers. 1 in 5 children will be approached by an online predator, and only 25% of these kids told their parents. I just saw a Thorn report that said 22% of our kids have been sexually approached in their direct messages through social media. Social media is a predator's most used tool of the trade. They have an open portal to your kid's life. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, gamers, Roblox, Gorilla Tag, anything with direct messages. They build trust and identify the target's needs. You need a boyfriend or a girlfriend? How about a job? I can help you out. They build relationships with them and eventually ask for a nude photo. Most of the time, the kid complies. And once that nude hits their inbox, it's game over. And if the kid is alert and refuses to comply, it may be too late thanks to deep fake technology. They just cut and paste your kid's face on a piece of pornography. Then the predator uses blackmail to get exactly what they want. I'll tell your parents, your teachers, I'll show your friends, I will ruin you if you don't do this next thing. And the next thing is to get their hands on them. Meet me at the mall. Meet me at the football game. That's why the human trafficking numbers go up at the Super Bowl. A lot of groundwork went into getting that child to meet with them at the game. And once they do, they're gone. I hope I get to talk to you and your organizations more about what we can do to keep our families safe and how we can be more socially responsible. There are some details that we just don't have time to cover here that everyone needs to know. But now that we're clear on what human trafficking is and how big the problem is, how do we do better, be better, and fight evil together? That's my hashtag, fight evil. We start by changing our focus from ourselves to others when we're out and about. That's not easy to do. We're so concerned with getting to our gate on time and what it is that we're traveling for, but we've really got to focus on what's going on around us. We have to actively pursue knowledge and never quit learning. It's the fastest growing industry in the world, so methods will evolve. We might have to risk embarrassment and ask people questions because that's the only way we're going to make an impact. And the way to do that is to play dumb and ask questions. Hey, where are you headed? Are you excited to be going? See how that kid reacts. See how that person reacts. See if you can't ask them questions without putting them in danger. There are simple red flags that we can learn about and watch out for to make a real difference. And if someone observes me with a child and asks me questions, I can't be offended. Don't take yourself too seriously. If someone is concerned enough to interrupt your day and ask you a question to protect a child, good for them. I'll wrap this up with some important contact information. Now, first, if you see something, here are the numbers you can call for human trafficking contacts. Of course, if you believe someone is in immediate danger, call 911. If you're not quite sure but have a really bad feeling about a situation, trust your gut and call 311 and ask for a welfare check. The worst thing that could happen is that you're wrong. But what if your gut was right? And here are the numbers that you can give someone if you think they need to find help for themselves to get out of a situation. They can call, text, or chat. And if your organization wants to take a deeper dive, you can do a couple of things. I've launched a YouTube channel to tell true stories of human trafficking. The more we know about real-life victims and survivors, the better prepared we'll be to fight. You can search my name, Sabrina Stratford, or at Sabrina Loves Justice. And if your organization would like to explore corporate responsibility, head over to my website, sabrinastratford.com, and there's a forum. Modern slavery will rage on if we don't all fight together at a local and individual level and corporately. If you want to get the truest understanding that you can of the issue, imagine it happening to the person you love the most. The inhumanity of the abuse, the violent and destructive nature of the crime, and the sheer volume of the problem leads us to believe that human trafficking is one of the greatest injustices of our generation. But we will fight together. Thank you for your time and attention.